Hey, everybody. Hey, hi. I blew it. Hey, everybody. My name is Jeff May. Welcome to another glorious episode of Jeff Has Cool Friends. I am Jeff. Obviously, I've done that introduction, and I have cool friends, and I have a very cool friend to bring you today. She is one of my favorite comedians and people in Los Angeles. I love doing shows with her. I love doing podcasts with her. She's a comedian. She's a podcaster. She's a writer. She is an all-around badass. Ladies and gentlemen, Anna Valenzuela. Anna, hi.
Oh my God, Jeff, I'm gonna listen to that part of the podcast every time I feel down about myself. That was so lovely. Thank you so much. What a great intro.
You're cool as hell, man.
You're so cool. When you started this podcast about having cool friends, I was like, oh, I hope I can be a cool friend someday. And now I am. I'm here. I made it.
It is one of those things. It's funny because it's a bi-weekly show that I book myself. So pain in the ass to book this show. It is weird. Well, because first off, I don't want to just keep bringing comedians on. If I wanted to do a comedian interview podcast, I could do a every 2-day podcast and never run out of people.
Yes.
But I think that sort of defeats, I think that's masturbatory when comedians have podcasts where they just like interview other comedians. And I'm always
you mean a comedian lives in an echo chamber of their own thoughts and opinions, just constantly mirroring back at them, hopefully from a sycophant that just wants to be near them.
I like to mix it up a little bit, but sometimes opportunities present themselves where you see somebody and you're like, oh, like I need you on the show, and with scheduling, and it's like, bam, like I wanted Anna Valenzuela on the show.
Aww.
I actually have, I think, unless scheduling is weird, I have another comic. So this will be the first time, I think, in the show that I'm going to have 2 comedians back to back. And you are one of them. And I have another one scheduled.
It's a comedian cluster. And I'm here.
I will add, scheduling means nothing in the podcast world because everybody, like, I get so many cancellations, and it's not to anybody's necessarily fault, but they're like, yeah, my kid is sick, or I'm in Denver right now or something. And I'm like, never mind. I guess I'll just scramble or go myself.
I have explosive diarrhea. Although the Denver one, you can easily, I feel like you can work around that, but people be wilding.
Yeah. You know what's great is doing a podcast where somebody is on hotel Wi-Fi while they're talking into their laptop speaker.
Fair. There's nothing worse than a Holiday Inn Express's Wi-Fi connection.
I mean, we've known each other for quite some time. I feel like we've known each other for
since I started.
Close to 10 years, I'm guessing, right? Yeah.
I'll be 8 years in, or maybe it's 8 years in already.
2015 or 2014?
2014.
So, okay. So that, because I'm pretty sure I remembered this, but I wasn't 100% sure. We met at Nerd Melt.
Yes, we did. R.I.P. to a real one.
we met at Nerd Melt. You were relatively new there. I had been at the open mic for quite some time and started to get my footing. And spoiler alert, it was the best club in LA that got shut down by a developer.
Yeah. Property in LA is worth more than art. So that. Oh, no, I was going to say our first conversation, we compared tooth loss. We both are missing teeth from poverty.
Yes, we are. Poverty and combat sports.
Yes, exactly.
That's it, because I am missing 2 now. I'm missing 2 teeth. I have one down here and one down there. So you've got one in the back, which means we can still be hot as shit. Because our church teeth are fine.
The church teeth are fine. You got to keep, I always tell them, I'm like, put your mouth guard in, because you got to keep your church teeth. All right. Those are the expensive ones.
Yeah. I treat my mouth like an iceberg. It's just like, well, it doesn't look so bad up top, but in the bottom, things are really rough.
We should go to lunch sometime, but only eat soft foods.
And like just just a soup and flan experience. But you really leaned into sort of the roast battle genre for a while. And I think you've kind of pulled away
completely. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have from roast battle. I think roast battle was a great experiment. I think there's been some taint with some of the people that were connected to it. And so it was like, I'm gonna, maybe not a guy that slept with a child, maybe I'm not gonna do his show anymore. Sorry, Jeff Ross, but you're an enemy of the pod, and you started that way. So you ended up making it. You did roast battle. You were doing it for quite some time.
Yeah.
You were getting one heck of a reputation, to the point where when they did the inaugural roast battle television series, you were on that.
Yeah, I was on season 2, and kind of how it all happened is no, you're fine. The inaugural one is interesting because nobody who actually roast battles really did it. There was like a couple of people, but like the first season was like it wasn't like the people who actually kind of built the show. And not that I was one of the people that built the show. I was kind of like a second gen, like I was the next generation Starship Enterprise.
You were the Worf of
yes. Oh, okay. Or like the Foxy therapist lady.
Dana Troy.
Yeah, Dana Troy. But I do like,
you can't say Beverly Crusher because that's my girl, and that would make it weird.
Yeah, no. Or I would say actually probably more Worf, or the Lady Klingons. Love them.
Oh
anyway.
Yeah, like Kaler or the
of
the Beverly
Hell
Crusher.
Wow.
The Beverly Crusher doll right next to me while I'm recording. That's my girlfriend.
That is your girlfriend. I love that. What a mommy issue advertisement.
That is wild to me that you picked me apart so fast on that one. You read me faster than anybody else has.
Did you know that there are tarot cards? We were talking about tarot last night. There are Star Trek tarot cards.
There's everything tarot cards. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet she's the Empress on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I started comedy when I was like 32, which is old for comedy. And I was in Long Beach and Orange County, and a lot of people down there were having to roast battle. Honestly, if you ask them, it was because they were trying to backdoor their way into the Comedy Store. I would hang out a little bit, and at first I was very against sort of the concept of it, because my identity at the time was telling myself like, oh, I'm not a mean person. I'm a fun person. I'm a silly person. And that all those things are true, including the mean part.
Yeah, no, but you're mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I can be mean as but I try, I try not to. And what happened was a friend of mine was like, you should roast this one gal. And I did it the first time. And I got to tell you, I had like a panic attack leading up to it. I was like crying.
It's terrifying. It's a terrifying thing.
It's a terrifying thing. And the first joke that she did, I started to like, speaking of combat sports. So I have a 3rd degree black belt in Wei-Choo-Ryu, Okinawan karate, and I used to compete. And
that's Okinawan karate. That's the Mr. Miyagi karate.
We wax on, wax off, baby. We do circle blocks. That's how you do it. But so I just sort of dipped into that part of my personality. And even when I'm on stage, I was kind of rotating my hips like I was going to throw a kick at any moment to kind of calm myself down. And the first joke hit, and it was April Lotshot, and she said, Anna's so many damaged men, her pussy has been licensed as a service animal. That's and a pretty good joke, died. I felt so seen, kind of the way you were talking about with the Beverly Crusher thing. Like I felt so seen.
Yeah.
And I laughed and laughed and laughed. But I'm also super competitive. I think I to this day think she outwrote me and I outperformed her. That's all it was.
That happens,
I was just, yeah. And I kept doing it because it felt like what I got out of the first one was it felt like an excellent exercise in writing. And that's really what I needed, was like a thing that forced me to write 100 jokes, good, bad, or indifferent, and then sift through and figure out what's good. Did
you two meet up ahead of time to like talk about like weaknesses?
Yes.
Like, okay, because I know that some people don't want to interact with the person, because the goal from roast battle, from what I understand, isn't necessarily to win. It's to make sure you put on a good show.
Absolutely.
In a way, just like wrestling would be. Like,
yes,
it's like it doesn't necessarily matter who wins. What really matters is making sure that although you want to win, right?
So, yeah, you're competitive, but it's not, again, it's like wrestling. It's more, it's having fun. And
so you met up ahead of time.
We'd have coffee, we'd talk, and there'd usually be, it's funny because there are some people that really had a hard time separating themselves from it. And there are some subjects that are hard to separate. Like I would say, like, never talk about my stepmother. She's a saint. If you talk about her, I will punch you in the parking lot. You cannot talk about my stepmom, which is a crazy thing because my parents are dead. And I'm like, you can talk about my dead parents all day. They're not around to like care about it. You can talk about my grandma, you can talk about whatever. But like, you would kind of figure out, and also too, you get a vibe for a person. So like when I started to, I think what kind of broke it down for me was roasting folks from New York got hard because they would come out here to roast and to like show up in front of TV producers and stuff.
Mhm.
And the thing about it is like there was a meanness to doing it with somebody I didn't know. And I
Yeah.
didn't know their comedy. I would like creep on their podcasts and we would talk a little bit, exchange a little bit of this, that, and the other thing. But it was hard to stay friendly off the court. And I remember talking to somebody because I was listening to his podcast and
Was
he
this
said
somebody
some,
you've competed against?
yeah, and he
Who
said
was it?
some, I will, he's a nice person. It was a
Okay, that's
misunderstanding.
totally okay. Yeah,
I
that's
will, I will say it was on the network that Legion of Skanks is on. So you get the vibe.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he said some pretty horrible things. And I said, hey, man, immediately posted the thumbnail to the podcast. And I said, hey, everybody do me a favor because I have to go on the road and deal with his fans. I would like you to get their podcast a 1-star review. And he called me immediately and was like, Anna, that hits my bottom line. And I said, your fans have the potential to be dangerous. So watch what you say off the court. And I was like, I'll take the post down, but don't with me. And he was like, okay. And we were perfectly fine after that. But there was like, again, there was like a meanness because we just didn't know each other.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for that. The other reason why I backed away, and I loved it, doing the show was I was 2 years into comedy. I had some health problems I wasn't aware of, but I'm telling you, you could have cut my leg off and I would have, I was wearing an adult diaper when I went on TV. I have a joke about it. It's like, I was so not for diarrhea purposes. Also, I know that very specific
discharge purposes. Yeah.
Yes, discharge. I have a chronic squirting condition. I can't stop. God. Constantly dehydrated.
That might be the grossest thing we've ever said on the show. If I'm being 100%.
No, I'm getting a hysterectomy this year. I got a bad ute. And so sort of like having it's like if your car has bad transmission. So, or I suppose a cooling pump. I don't know. But so I didn't know it. And the show was an amazing experience. I still can't believe like I was on TV. That's crazy. I go to my hometown and they're like, remember when Snoop Dogg hit on you? That's the only thing anybody in my hometown, like country ass hometown, is the only thing anybody cares about.
Remember when a 50-year-old stoner hit on you?
Exactly.
You're like, I don't know if you think that's like,
I
mean,
I was fun, I was like, everything from the waist down was screaming. but yeah, so that happened. And it was, again, I had 2 years in and I, thank God for those health issues because it gave me a chance to evaluate the trajectory of my career. In that
you were only 2 years in.
Yeah.
That is a jarringly fast period of time to get on TV. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I had comics reach out to me and be like, hey, this, just so you know, this is like a moment. This isn't like you broke in. It's not like old Hollywood days. Keep your day job. Make sure that you like keep your head about you. Like, yep. And so I had some like really good people in my corner being like, this is a weird experience.
Yeah.
I definitely like, it was so cool. It was so fun. But then I was on the road because all of my friends went on to like write for like TV, like all of the people. I will say this, myself and the other Mexican from my season are not writing for TV currently. Almost everyone else is.
Well, so. I mean, that's interesting.
Hollywood, get it together.
Because yeah, there's obviously that the implication of the fact that Hollywood is not ethically diverse. The other time, I know some of the people that got jobs, quote, writing for TV, and they were basically making no money to have somebody get all of the credit for their work. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like you could have had a better job than that.
I said that out loud. There was one day where I was feeling real bad about myself. And then somebody who like from my class of roast battle who went on to write for like a Netflix show was like, at the end of the day, we totaled up the hours and the amount of time we were writing. We all made $4.75 an hour.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where, I think I hate to, no, I don't care. I'll say something awful about another comedian. Jeff Ross is a bad person. I think he's not particularly good. I think he definitely f***ed a kid. That's not even a thing that we're like, that is even in question. It's
right.
His existence is why I'm banned from the haha in North Hollywood.
Oh yeah, you guys got beef.
Because I had made a joke about them, and they were like, actually, Jeff Ross is coming in. I'm like, oh, well, the grown men who a kid demographic is going to be equally represented. And then they blocked me.
Yeah, I
But
think,
I know people
yeah.
that did so well in roast battle that they got to get paid barely any money to write all of his jokes, and he got all the credit, and they were like, isn't he brilliant? It's like, I mean, he's kind of a two-time of a predator.
It's a weird,
He's a sex and a career predator.
yeah, it's a weird thing, man, because it's like I've talked about this with a couple comedians that still work with him or still know him, and I felt, and I would say this to him, I felt let down about the response. His press statement specifically about his allegations, I felt were, it was a missed opportunity to exercise accountability in a way that would have taught other comedians how to do that. And that broke my heart because my interactions with him were always respectful and positive, and which is the thing that comedians say a lot. They'll be
It's a
like,
good reminder. Yeah, they were nice to me.
they were nice to me. And it's like, well, we have to be careful. And I will say this, like, without getting like too in the because I haven't really spoken to him since all of that came out. And I can't imagine him regarding me negatively. So it is one of those things I've had to think about, like, how do I want to interact with people who have done things that go against my integrity?
How do you reconcile that? Yeah.
How do you reconcile that?
And that's victimized other people.
Yeah. And how do you, I've asked that to my friends that still, work and interact with him. And we are all kind of in a complicated place with it. And so one of the things that, and I do want to say I am anti-pedophile. I am anti-labor, labor misuse and abuse. I'm like, anti-capitalism, all of that. But what I think was happening, at least in my own decision making, was I was 2 years in, and even though I was an adult person, I was very naive about Hollywood stuff, in a way that I'm no longer naive about. And one of the reasons is, like, number one, there's some there's pay and equity issues. We did not get paid a lot to do that show. And also too, like, the ethics of the people you work with, again, you have no control. Once your likeness and your art and your whatever or craft is out there, you don't have any control over what fan base really
what the response becomes. Yeah.
What the response, it's out there, you're vulnerable for the world, and the things that you've said, like, I have a prepared statement for apologizing and making amends for some jokes that I made in my early roast battle career already. Don't go look them up, please. Don't hurt me.
I mean, sure. Yeah, but I mean,
we saw between 2015 and 2018, we saw the way language and comedy changed almost overnight.
Yeah.
So there's that. I was at a festival shortly after roast battle. I was at the Flyover Festival. Shout out Gray Fest. And
that's the one that's in St. Louis.
It's in St. Louis, Missouri. You've probably heard the joke about this. Here's what happened. Some people hit me up and they were like, I'm bringing like 10 friends to your show. I absolutely love you. I'm a huge fan from roast battle, super into it. And what happened was they showed up to the show and they were big weirdos. And I invited them to go to this. They were having an after party at the bar. And I was like, yeah, you guys can come along, blah, blah, blah. And when they got there, all the comedians started screaming at them because they were weird. Trust me, they were weird. I was actually trying to get to a second location around people that were less weird is what I was trying to do. So I was trying to find.
Okay. So like, what were the other comedians doing then?
They were yelling at them because they were, the St. Louis chapter of the Proud Boys had been on local television for being Proud Boys. And they got in a big fight, and everybody was like, who brought these people? And I'm like, well, that's my comedy that did that. I'm so sorry. And so when people, I know the look on Jeff's face, guys, right now, it looks like he's into his mouth from the inside. Like, he's so upset.
I mean, it's definitely going to be jarring when you find out that essentially you are attracting proto-Nazis.
When your full name is Anna Maria Valenzuela and your your grandmother's like an environmentalist.
The Proud Boys have they have a huge
Latino. They have a
following. Yeah.
Yeah, Cubans and Tejanos love racism. No, I'm kidding. That's not true. Not all of them. Some though.
I
You're
will say that my brother, when my brother was married to a Puerto Rican woman, and he said, I have never experienced racism like I mean, I've never witnessed racism, not experienced, like got it himself. He's like, oh, they loved me. He's like, but he's like, every Puerto Rican, they hated people from Honduras. And he's like, they were so racist among themselves. He's like, I've never seen a level of racism, and we're from a place that had racism. He's like, I've never seen it worse than when I was listening to a Puerto
yeah.
Rican family talk about other people of Hispanic descent.
Other we got the colonial worms real bad, and the way that colonialism keeps people of color separated and fighting amongst themselves is to encourage racism and competition amongst them. And
Which is a great move on our part.
great, good job, guys. Really great. It's like a real Trump way to run a business. You know what I mean? But like the business is humanity.
I'm not going to pretend that I don't look sickly with the pallor of the pallor, excuse me, of my skin right now.
Yes,
I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, do I not get any
that's because I started talking about the Proud Boys and all the color drained from your face. And that's exactly what happened to me. And so that's the story I tell people when I hear that they want to do like, there is a very proto-Nazi comedy network and they have big festivals. And I always tell people, like, I know that you're looking at the thing in front of you and you think, I want to do that thing, but you have to be careful about the unintended audience you're cultivating.
Yeah. I make it a very specific point to that my social media experience leaves you no room to guess what kind of a person I am and what kind of fans I do not want.
Yeah, exactly. And and again, in the same way that language has changed over the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years in such a dramatic way. And it's correct. The changes are correct. This is what I tell people. The changes are correct. We just all have to be better and more articulate and funnier. That's all you have to do is switch it up. That's it. Just like make a couple adjustments. But the same thing is true about like the way that autonomy is viewed and the way that like I started kiddingly asking audiences for consent because I have such like raw, visceral, dirty material that I'm like, do you consent to this? I want to get the opportunity to be like, nah, dude. It's like, and like I think that like we've learned so much about how to behave and act in the world. And all I want from my heroes and predecessors who have up is to say, I now know I did the bad thing.
Own it. Yeah.
And I want to make it right. And how can I make it right? And then to do what they're asked to do. And
but instead they get adopted by these awful people. And like that's that weird culture war where you would not expect somebody like Louis C.K. to be the guy that terrible men love. Like Louis C.K., you got to remember back before everything was going down, he was considered a relatively progressive version of a comedian. And obviously there's a lot of gray area in that and the misunderstanding of what consent is or implied danger and stuff like that. There's so much to unpack there. But now this guy, because he didn't really own it the way, to be fair, I think he tried, but he didn't do it the way I think the public was like, no, that's not enough.
No, you can't like.
So then now he becomes this example. Same thing with Chappelle. They do something problematic and they become the arbiter of comedy for terrible people.
Yeah. And it's an unintended consequence to an inability to just being defensive and deflective. Yeah. If you were in a relationship and you were like, I need you to do the dishes, and they were like, I don't want to do the dishes, or I did the dishes last week, or why do I have to do the dishes? And like, see, so it's the same sort of reactiveness where you're like, no, just take a step back and breathe, take stock in what you've done and think, how can I do it better?
Yeah.
And that's all you got to do is be like, maybe I don't have the bandwidth to do the dishes right now, I see what you're saying. That's super annoying. Everything you did was wrong. Or,
Yeah.
It's that and when instead it becomes two people being like, you're a piece of shit who never does the dishes. And then the other person's like, you're always telling me I'm wrong and you're always trying to cancel me over these damn dishes. And it's like, can we just have a conversation for 5 seconds? Am I making sense?
Yes, it's one of those things where, I see that a lot too with, like, I'm in my family doesn't ever admit that they up. And I broke that, where like when I up, I'm very much like, yeah, that was my bad. And so I'll have interactions with people from high school. People will say stuff on Facebook where if I call them out for saying something terrible, and like, you said this mean thing to me one time in 1998. And I'm like, probably, I'm really sorry about that. I was impulsive, and it's not an excuse for causing harm, but I was a young kid, impulsive, and didn't understand the weight of my words. And I apologize. And if I could take back those actions, like, I would. And people are like,
Yeah.
okay. Like, they don't, it disarms people's rage when you just are like, yeah, that's my bad.
That's all you got to do. That's
Yeah.
literally all you got to do. And I know that it is tricky when it comes to sexual boundaries to have that conversation. And again, not pro pedophile, but what I am saying is when I was 15, I was partying with grown men. And those grown men were never gropey, never rapey, but they would laugh. They go, how old are you? And I'd be like, oh, I'm 15. And they'd be like, oh God, don't even sit on the same couch with her. She'll catch a charge. They used to call me Stag. They used to call me statutory because I was so young and like clown on me because I was hanging out with grown men doing drugs and drinking. And that isn't everyone's experience. Like, you go back and you watch these movies from the 70s and 80s that our parents idolized and they raised us on, and the sexual boundaries are a nightmare.
Well, not just the sexual boundaries, but the romantic boundaries.
Yes.
I always say, like, one of the biggest mistakes of my generation is that romantic comedies, basically, they exalted stalking, like light stalking. When you think of like one of the most romantic scenes of all time, it's John Cusack holding up the radio while In Your Eyes plays, and you're like, yes, that Say Anything is and then you think about that as a behavior now, and like, I recognize and understand, and I've talked about this, I think, in the past, but when the Me Too movement came in, it made me realize that there was a girl I had a crush on, and I tried to romantically show up for her in a situation, and it ended up being that I think I was scarier in that
because
situation.
you have such a you look like a boxer. You look like you box and you teach boxing, and you just love hitting people.
I had such a crush on this girl in high school, and then I lost all the weight, and I was like, maybe now it was it wasn't her flavor. But I wrote her a letter, because hardly wait, he wrote a letter. That worked for him. And I realized, and it was like after and I had always just been like, oh man, I failed at that. That didn't work out the way, and I moved on with my life. Right. When when it came out in like 2016 or 2015, like, really, and I messaged this woman on Facebook, and I wrote this very, very, like, hey, like, I'm sorry, not recent ago, but a long time ago, this happened. I didn't understand the negative energy that would bring. And I was like, and I want you to know I'm sorry. I regret and she was like, I don't even really remember that. And I was like, well, I've been thinking about it for 12 years. So
and that's what makes you a comedian. She's like, I totally forgot. I'm done.
And it's like one of those things where, like, she's like a conservative, and she's got like this like rich Connecticut family situation going on. Like, she's in a much better place, and obviously we never would have worked out.
She was just more concerned with your poverty getting on her. She was like, ugh, poor.
But it's like, I do think about that a lot. Or I think, like, I had another ex that she's now like a Christian homesteader, and I'm like, well, we wouldn't have worked out in the law.
No.
But it wasn't as hard as people would think to own the problem of being like, you know what? I considered only what was going on in my head, and I didn't consider how the perception of me would affect somebody in, like, I don't know, a parking lot of an Applebee's that they work at 11 p.m. with me leaning against my car or whatever.
I
Like,
swear to you're
that's
telling this story, and I keep imagining like In Your Eyes playing, and I would yell like, "Hey, you know what? I get that you're trying to be sweet, but I'm gonna get my nunchucks out of the car if
yeah.
you don't back the off."
It's one of those things. It's kind of pathetic, but it's also like I still have that, like, pardon the phrasing, because this isn't meant to be negative. This is just me with my own experience, is
Yeah.
that like fat kid romantic energy that I carried, where it was like very
Yeah.
poetic and very like my only experience with romance had been stuff that you see in movies. I didn't date in school. So I didn't know about relationships, and I didn't know about
Right.
how heartbreak worked. For me, everybody I had a crush on, they were a paragon of perfection and beauty and everything like that. And I still sometimes carry that, even
Yeah, and
though I'm 41.
that's a part of the conversation that's missed out on. And I shelved a bit, but I'm gonna start working on it again, where I only want to, like, white dudes love a Latina. They act completely differently on the dating websites. They're just like, "Hey girl, what's up? Can I take you to dinner?" Which is the energy. Okay, guys, don't good morning me every day until into eternity. White dudes are assertive because they're white dudes, and they're okay with it. They're used to taking up space, is what it
I
is.
am not that, by the way.
You're but here's what I'm going to say. There's a subset of white dudes, and this is where we're as a culture losing these particular guys that I call white dudes with deficits. So maybe you've known barriers in your life. So it's like short, bald, maybe they've had some, a time in their life when they were rejected based on their physical image in some way. Like that kind of thing, where we don't know what to do, right? Because they have like privilege, right? They got white guy privilege, but they don't have white guy confidence.
Yeah, that explains that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense? Like there's a certain type of, and so what we'll do is we'll be like, yo, all you white dudes have always had it easy. And it's like, no, in certain areas you maybe have, but in sometimes, I guess, I don't know. I'm walking that line. I'm not woke enough. But what I'm saying is, I'm just saying is I can have empathy for the experience you're expressing, is that
Yeah.
you've had barriers in your life to, like, you've never always been the prom king and you carry
Yeah.
some like trauma around that or whatever.
Yeah. And it was like, I did what I could to survive in school, but I mean, I looked like a giant hard-boiled egg growing, and it's like not the object of anyone's affection, for sure. And
That
which
is
is
true.
which by the way, I prefer that. I'd much rather prefer having that chip on my shoulder, or that fear, that genuine fear of women that I have, is a much safer fear to have. Like, honestly, with everything that was going on with like Me Too and everything, I'm like, man, if I was way more confident, I might have gotten myself into trouble by accident of like
Yeah.
making a move on somebody, even though I felt like maybe I wasn't. Like, I do
Yeah.
not make a move until the light is so green. Like, I don't
Yes.
do it. And it has annoyed people in the past, but I'm like, look, man,
No.
I'm a monster. Oh, it 100% has. I had a girl that I dated for quite some time tell me she was going to give up on me because I wouldn't make a move.
I said I did text this recently to a guy, just because he's super introverted, and I said, a less confident woman would think that you're not that into me. I just happen to know you don't like going outside, and he just laughed, and he goes, "No, I'm super into you." So I think part of it is like needing the reminder of like, "Hey, I am so into you. I'm just also super into consent." And so, like, same dude,
Oh, I'm
like,
not into that. No.
yeah, I'm super duper into consent. So it'll be like, I ask guys for consent when I'm on dates, because I know that, like, I'm 40. I'm like, they're generally younger guys like me. And like, I also have a public facing persona, and I know that there are lady creeps out there. Like, friend of mine got stalked by a woman for like 3 years. They never had sex, and that was actually the part that like she felt, you know, without getting into too much detail, but you
Wait,
know,
that took a turn where he was like,
yeah.
she just, well, we're not going to go into specific details about that. I'm like, that sounds like someone died.
No, she was just yeah, but I say all that to say that like there is like stalking is stalking, and he wouldn't call it stalking. He would not call it stalking, but it was
I think
stalking.
I think I think men tend to not view stalking as a problem because we're not necessarily in any physical danger.
Yes.
Where like if somebody and you know, not for nothing, but men don't get attention the aggressive amount that women do. So like
Yeah.
women get attention when they're just walking down the street that don't want it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like how much attention can you get over the past 30 years where you're like, I'm over this. With men, we don't really get that. So
Yeah.
whenever we get attention, you're like, I don't know, man, it feels kind of nice if I'm being 100% honest. Like I've been there where I'm like, look, this isn't like, I know like it's not gonna
Like
happen.
I know like she scares me, but
Yeah.
I like the attention she's giving me, even though it's terrifying.
Yeah. No, I never got attention growing up. So whenever somebody gives me attention, I'm like, what do you want me to do?
And now imagine that. So you're in comedy, you're dating all these. So you've a lot of the guys that we work with, whether they're absolutely super famous or some sad open micer, all have that in them where they're like, oh,
Comedians are dirtbags, by the way.
Yeah.
Like everybody needs to understand that. There's not a lot of like good people that become comedians. There's like 5 of them.
And it's an accident. It's like yeah, it's an accident. And I think that like yeah, I think that God, this podcast, so much of it edit out. Jeff, make me sound like the war. I think a lot of we're in a very tricky for people like us who have clear boundaries around our ethics. This is a tricky world to work in.
Yes, but I would, I mean, I've my ethics have cost me probably more than they've done for me, but
same.
I also would like to address the fact, and obviously we can move on, but like my ethics have been on a sliding scale because
everyone's are
like they weren't the same as they were 3-4 years ago, even where, you know, I remember doing a joke where the point was it was supposed to be subversive and it was supposed to talk about sort of like a weird sense of liberalism in Boston, where I would make a joke that used the new F word,
yes.
you know, about like wanting equal rights for people, but not knowing how to say it out loud. And so I would use that word. And then, and then there was a tag on that joke that used the N word. And it was, in my opinion, it's probably the smartest joke I've ever written. But I started to notice that there was a brushback, particularly among Black comedians, that were like, you know, why would you say that? And some didn't care. Some were like, comedy's comedy, do what you want. But then there were some that were like, what makes you think you can say that? And I used to be like, no, get it. It's the bit. It's being subversive. And then I was just like, you know what? I don't need this joke.
Like, or even you don't need the word. You can swap the word out. You can do
not in that situation.
Not in that situation.
Although I did switch out one of them. I did switch the N-word one. There was no way to do that joke without it. And I was like, I don't need the joke. I just don't need it. Because it was all about what the joke essentially was like about how Boston's a progressive city, but it does it very wrong. And they were like, yeah, you're goddamn right.
Yeah, I think I've heard it. I think I've heard that. Yeah.
But the tag that I had at the end is I said, these were the same people protesting in the 60s with signs that just said N-word rights. And okay, so like that's a good enough joke, but it's not a joke that's worth the harm that saying that word could do to somebody. That's a word. That is a word of hate. That is a word people hear when they get assaulted. And so is the F word.
Yeah.
Those are 2 words that people say during hate crimes. And if they're words that people say as objects of violence, I don't need them. And I can still do stand-up comedy and be funny. If I have to use hate speech to be funny, that means I'm not funny.
I stopped going to a club's open mic because there was so much anti-trans jokes
Oh my
that I couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, I think you just said, you hit it on the nose around the the necessity to evaluate whether or not our words are objects of hate and violence. I
yeah.
love the way you phrase that, objects of hate and violence. And I had, when I was having my reproductive issues shortly after the roast battle experience, I had a joke that was subversive. I don't even remember, but I was comparing sort of like my own reproductive struggles to the struggles of trans women. And I stopped doing it
Yeah.
because I realized it was hitting and it was smart. It was super smart. Like I had other comedians go, that joke is smart. However, because especially you and I are both like performers and we got big personalities on stage. Here's the trick. We have friends that are super duper deadpan on stage and they're tricking the audience into believing that they're more intelligent than they are. People think that big personalities and loud voices are not necessarily intelligent because we can know how to
It's the
perform.
voice of the dumb.
It's the voice of the dumb.
Yeah.
But usually, never forget, the most intelligent Golden Girl was the lady who played Rose. It was, I mean, Betty White was super intelligent. And like, so like to understand that like you, like it was a smart joke, but I just woke up one day and I said the same thing with Roast Battle. I woke up one day and I said, this is not for me. This is
Yeah.
not my joke to tell.
If,
This is not my world to stay in. I'm a
this,
tourist here. I'm moving on.
if this joke creates the career, that's not the career I want.
Yes, exactly. My joke on the road when I'm on the road, my roommate, a super funny comic named Brandy Posey, amazing,
Funny,
and
yeah.
we'll go on the road sometimes. And my joke is her fans. I'll be like, "Where are the lady fans at?" And they're always like they're so sweet. Like, and I always say, I go, the difference between a lady fan and a roast battle fan is here. I brought you some muffins,
Yeah.
and a roast battle fan's like, I'm muffins. I was like,
yeah, that's the difference between a lady to lady fans and roast battle fans is lady.
Yes. But I mean, it was still a great experience. And I had like my best friend growing up. What was amazing about it was so many of my friends said, when you said you were doing stand up, I thought you were doing a hobby. And then I saw you and this is what you were supposed to do the whole time.
Yeah.
And then I had people tell me, I was folding my laundry with the TV on in the background and I heard your voice. I thought you had called me and I turned and you were on the TV.
Yeah.
And like to have that happen was such an honor, and to have it happen early enough for me to reevaluate how I want the second, the next few years of my career to go has been amazing. I've gotten to do really cool, like Limestone Comedy Festival. I got to do High Plains. I've traveled all over the world. I've gotten to do comedy like in Bangkok, in Kuala Lumpur illegally because they pulled my work visa and they closed the club so I could still perform.
That's weird.
Yeah, and then afterwards we went to a back door because it's a Muslim country. We went to a bar, like a secret bar, and had like the dish that they make, which is this rice dish, but they make it with pork. We committed all the crimes in one night, and like it's what an insane experience. And I've gotten to meet people like you, and I've gotten to meet like other weird nerd, like fight nerd weirdos, and so it's been really cool to pivot. And I think if you're listening to this, and even if you're not a comedian and you're like, I work for a evil conglomerate, or I do this or I do that, and yet there's moments of your job or your life where you feel icky, follow that and make a pivot.
Well, I think that's important for you and I to discuss too, because we both left other lives for this world.
Yes, this is a choice. This isn't the only thing we could do.
I retired for this. Like I retired from teaching for this. I left an entire career behind and started performing at almost 31. And same for you at 30.
Yeah, I was working in drug and alcohol treatment, getting yelled at by and working with autistic people, which by the like or people on the spectrum and other like neurodivergent. I've ADHD, anxiety,
I
PTSD, all
love
the
that you're
things.
backtracking your way because you said a word that they stopped using 4 months ago or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, really? I didn't. Okay. So like people on the spec, like neurodivergent humans,
yeah,
because it is a spectrum. It's like, it's
for
like a whole
sure.
thing. And like or as we used to say, folks with disabilities when using nonviolent communication in psychological spaces. And
And people first language instead of
people
disabled people with disabilities.
people with disabilities, exactly. So then I started doing stand up, which is a lot of neurodivergent drug addicts. So
Sure is. Yeah, you went. That's like me, where I left eighth grade so I could be around people that talk and think like eighth graders. Speaking of great, cool things, I don't know if you knew this, Anna Valenzuela, but if you head over to patreon.com/Jeff May, you can actually sign up for the producer tier. Now, I have kept the producer tier at a very, very affordable level until we start moving forward. But if you pay a little bit of extra money at patreon.com/Jeff May, and I say your name, and Anna, we can talk about these. Some of these can spark
say their
conversations.
names.
We got some names on here, so we'll go through, and we're gonna give a big shout out to these people. Again, if you're listening to this for free, thank you so much. If you want to hear us swear without the beeping, you want to get the episodes early, you want them uncensored with bonus content, head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May. We will get the episodes a week early.
You beep out the swears?
Yeah, because I'll tell you why. Somebody asked me about this last night at the show we were on.
Okay.
Said, I was wondering why you bleep the swears out. And the answer for that is very simply is I don't have to put that it's an explicit podcast when I put it up for free.
Oh.
Because I don't chase ad revenue. So the
Yeah.
cursing I keep behind a paywall, like think of it as like HBO versus network.
Yeah.
When you
Okay.
put something out on network, you bleep out the swears because you want everybody to be able to listen to it.
Yeah. You watch the Titanic on TNT, you ain't gonna get them hot.
Can I get that sweet drawn?
Yeah, and then you watch it on HBO and you get all the
Like I got on that. We got how many
yeah.
times can we say this is going to be great for the swear cut, by the way. The other thing too, if you are listening for free, one of the things that we do is we release what's called the swear cut, where my producer lovingly picks every single swear out of the show and places it into one cut.
Can you send that to me?
Absolutely.
Oh my
So
gosh.
shout out to the following producers. Shout out to a googly-eyed rock. Shout out to Jose Cansecat. Jay, friend of the crows, demands a crow emoji. # join the murder. Follow my dog's Instagram at Bash Noggins. He's dumb and adorable. You get the Aldo Vargas rookie card, everybody. R.I.P. Don West. Shout out to Bauhaus.
Bauhaus. You got Bauhaus, the band. That's a goth band.
This is spelled like BAO, Bauhaus. So it's like a Korean goth band.
What? Oh, that's a restaurant for sure.
Shout out to Koi Pham Art and Mentoring, Nolan Void, Ricky Cilantro, Big Booty Boy, 42069.
Hey, you single?
Maine, more than Stephen King. You ever been to Maine?
Never been to Maine. I have a thing against cold. I don't like being cold.
So
there's like 3 days of the year I can go to Maine.
I went to college in Maine, actually.
How was it?
Cold. It was very cold.
Yeah, I don't like being cold.
I got my first tattoo in Maine, actually.
Oh yeah, you got tattoos.
I got 2 tattoos. I have white guy tattoos. I don't have like modern tattoos. I got tattoos, but like right before they were cool, when you were still a dirtbag when you got them.
I got a tattoo. I got a joke on stage where I'm like, I got a tattoo that lets you know everything about my daddy issues. It's bad. It's a bad tattoo.
What is it?
It's a tramp stamp with my dad's initials in it because you shouldn't have tattoos before you have sex.
Yikes, bro.
Didn't think about it.
You might want to just move those initials somewhere else and shoot a laser on your ass or something.
I definitely. If you have low cost laser tattoo removal, I will rep you for the rest of my life.
Shout out to jumping rope, still a sport. Jeff not liking it, still a fact. You're going to hear a lot of things about how I don't even like sports.
Yeah, I get it.
The show.
I don't like.
That's because the show I do with Adam Todd Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Do you like sports?
Yeah, I like a sport. I get into it. I like to watch boxing a lot because boxers are they're technicians, and I love watching. I'm obsessed with body mechanics and economy of motion. You want to get that, you're going to get that from boxers. You're going to get that from any quality athlete. But yeah,
I sparred this morning before we recorded this, and the guy I was fighting from Boston, my height, a little bit older than me, but we had a great sparring session.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it was fun. Solid. It was good, like, because we were both counter punchers too, and I didn't realize he was a counter puncher until I countered one of his shots with a gut shot, and he immediately hit me in the face, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. It was funny. Yeah, it was great.
Big guy counter puncher, lame.
If you're tall, you should be a counter puncher.
I know.
You know,
I'm like fighting a little, like, you know, when a chihuahua gets real mad and charges you. That's my vibe.
That's just me throwing my shoulder and sending you across the room. That's what I do with that. Shout out to Bodacious Big Bad Bouncing Bollock Bonanza. Shout out to Jennifer Fendelander at AV Foundry. Patrick Dore. I'm sorry, dude, if I keep that name up, but I like you as a person a whole lot. Bart Fardigan. Steven's looking for a new job. Everyone get Steven a job. Everyone find a job for Steven. Shout out to Huey. Check out Nerd with Dre and Jeff wherever Jeff May podcasts are found. Oh, Dre Alvarez using that money wisely. We got that show Nerd. We got a monthly show where he and I do a deep dive into nerdy stuff. I think the next one we're doing is The Tick, comic book.
Oh, the comic, not even the show.
No, we're doing the comic book here because we wouldn't have had enough time to do, like, you know, the cartoon or the.
I never watched the live action because I love the cartoon so hard. Actions. Yeah,
there was the Patrick Warburton one, and then there was the Peter. I'm forgetting his name, but the one
not Dinklage, different Peters.
Yeah, totally different. Different Peters. Sir Finowitz.
Okay.
I think that's his name. But yeah, the cartoon is, in my opinion, one of the greatest cartoons of all time.
It's so funny. It came out. There was this golden era of like cartoonery. Yeah, where it was like, so you had that. You had the Critic. I love the Critic.
Well, yeah, the Critic was primetime cartoon.
Yeah, you had these like weird, sometimes primetime, sometimes not primetime, like super weird cartoons. It was amazing.
Yeah, because like the Simpsons led to the Critic, which didn't last very long. And then kind of shifted over to Comedy Central off of Fox. But in the mornings in Fox Kids, you had like, you know, that was the era with the Tick. You had like the Tick would lead into X-Men, but before that, you had Bobby's World, you had Eek the Cat, you had like a long showing of Fox Kids. Anyway, Rudy, Daft Punk has an anime Rueda. It's called Interstellar 5555. Jeff hates competitive fun. JHCF and a doesn't like sports joke there.
I love it.
Goji, Feliz Años Nuevo, you goofy. Oh, there it is. Happy New Year in Espanol.
Okay.
Molotovsky advises everyone to calm the down and enjoy the menu.
Love that.
Yeah, I like that. Gerard Boston Mackett saved my Thanksgiving ruin.
Hold on. I found a shopping center in Van Nuys that has an operational Boston Market, an operational Sizzler across the street.
That is on Van Nuys Boulevard.
And the all you can eat with pinball in the back. That is not.
That's where my pinball league is, right?
Oh, really?
I know the owner. I have the owner of that place's phone number in my phone.
Tell him I'm onto his ass. They turn down the grill as you keep ordering, and I'm gonna start turning my grill back up. Thank you.
They only do that because they turn the grill on high in the beginning.
I know. I want it on high the whole time, bitch.
You'll do
I want to hurt myself.
That's not a trick, by the way. That's them putting it down so they can switch it out and before it's established.
Oh, so I don't. Okay, I thought they were trying to slow me down. I'm like, don't you
care.
dare.
They have a sign up there that says there's a table limit, so they don't.
That is
what you do.
The funny thing about that place is it's a Korean barbecue place and only Latino people are in it.
Yes, it's also right next to a Pizza Hut and a Planned Parenthood.
It's a nightmare.
So,
also, that taco spot does dollar tacos on Tuesdays,
sure
and they fucking
They
rip.
sure do. It's Pinball, Pizza, and Planned Parenthood, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, the three
Three
P's.
P's of Van Nuys. I will shout out. I'll give a free plug to Ace Gogi on Van Nuys Boulevard in Van Nuys.
Great experience.
It's where I took Val on our first date. It's where we go for our pinball league. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's also where I had my 40th birthday. In the back, we rented out the pinball room.
Oh.
It was during the pandemic, so it was like pretty limited.
I get it. Yeah.
It was like 2021. So it was like,
yeah, exactly. Still dicey.
20 tests, invited 20 people, and that was pretty much.
Oh, I love that you were testing people at the door.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Farty Marty, who has devoted his life to being upwind from Jeff in case, quote, the great air biscuit arrives as foretold. So,
I think I caught one of your farts last night. He's correct.
Oh, you did, and I did. And I saw you noticed it, and I laughed.
And I was like, man, I know a protein fart when I smell one.
Eat and die, Grand Canyon. You ever been to the Grand Canyon?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, do you? What was it like? Was it a hole in the ground?
It was a hole in the ground, but I have like a sense memory of it because my dad drove around the Grand Canyon when I was a kid and peed at every single rest stop. I've never seen a man drink so much water with intention before. He peed into the Grand Canyon literally every 15 miles. It was
That's
amazing.
like a dad that trying to get to every baseball stadium.
Yeah, that was his trying to get to all the baseball stadiums. But I love the Grand Canyon. It feels there's something cellular that reacts to it. I'm just like, this feels like a place where the gods of my ancestors dwell. It's very weird. Yeah.
I have no interest in going. I don't care. It's a whole.
It's beautiful.
Oh, I bet. I've seen pictures, which good.
It's your brain can't even comprehend it. It's like skydiving. Your brain can't comprehend it. It's so big. It's like hard
to I have the internet on my phone. Do you know how much cool shit I can see all the time at the push of a button?
Oh my God.
Show me the rules where it says a dog can't play basketball.
A dog cannot play basketball. And also a comedian can no longer do an Air Bud bit. You need to, if you're listening to this and you're a comedian, please retire your Air Bud bit. I'm helping a festival select people right now. And I put rejected on premise. It's 2023.
I would like to say in 2023 that quote, like a Jackson Pollock is done. That is I'm over that as being a punchline for somebody that got cum on themselves or whatever. And they're like, oh, paint it like a Jackson Pollock. I see so many lazy comedians use Jackson Pollock as a punchline. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Shout out to the guy who played JJ in Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. Shout out to Lisa Harden, also my co-producer on Mint on Card. You saw her last night.
She read you to Phil.
One of my absolute favorite people that is the most critical person of me.
She let you have it. I was like, that was woo. That's one you take to the therapist, Jeff. That's a woo. That felt so real.
Jessica Robertson, Silius Ruby, the Digital Phil, the Ghost of Dave Thomas, the Great Advertising Scam, Jeff May Joint, Erin Meyer. It was me, Jeff. I've been giving you $10 a month since the beginning so you could afford more gas station Pop-Tarts, keeping you sluggish. Just for me to steal Christmas. Gas station Pop-Tarts are that's my travel. That's like my sweet travel snack if I'm on a road trip. What are your road trip snacks? Stop at a gas station, one sweet, one savory. What do you get?
Oh man, that is such a comedian question. I either go with a spicy or lemon peanut, or now I'm on the Slim Jim train. Slim Jimin.
Oh wow, that's the opposite direction of a peanut.
And then on the sweet side, I either go with those Welch's fruit snacks now. I either do fruit snacks or a peanut butter cup.
Okay, that's a weird combo. The fruit snacks and the or like a Slim Jim. Like that to me is an unhinged combination.
Oh yeah. Well, I have a gluten allergy, so there's certain things I can't do anymore, like
Oh.
combos and bugles and that kind of stuff.
Combos,
So
that's mine. Pizzeria pretzel combos are mine.
a white dude loves a pizza combo.
No,
Universally.
okay, actually no. I'm going to call you out on that. That is by assigning pizzeria pretzel combos as a white dude thing.
Am I being racist? Am I being
Kind of,
combo
because I feel
racist?
like that is an everybody thing. It's just I'm going to guess that if you've been on tour with other
Yes,
dudes, they've mostly been all white men. So like
that's true.
you're getting a correlation without a causation here.
I think you're correct. I stand corrected. Please don't cancel me. I will say that when we are in, depending on the region of the world too, you get into the Zeps chips, the like
Oh yeah, yeah.
those,
Through the
you
South,
get
yeah.
it.
Zaps,
Yeah,
yeah.
you get into Oots,
Uts. You get uts or
Uts.
oots when you get up there, or you get into that'll bring you to like um Wise or Wachusett.
Mm-hmm.
And
Give me a crab cake chip. I had no idea.
oh yeah, those crab cake chips, yeah.
Those are good. I will take. And then when you're going through the South, there's a chip brand that's wrappers make the flavors.
Oh yeah,
And you
wrap
want to
snacks.
talk about
Those have been forever. You can get wrap
those
snacks anywhere.
those are so unhinged.
Yeah. Those have been
Those are
around. Those have
crazy.
done well. Those
They're
have been around for
good.
like over 20 years.
It's weird because it'll be like, all right, this chip tastes like nerds ropes, popcorn, and vinegar. And you're like, okay. And then you eat it, and you're like, this is great.
Yeah, yeah. I will say that if I ever am in the Northeast, my sweet snack goes from gas station Pop Tarts and it shifts to Funny Bones, which is essentially a devil's food kind of Twinkie with a
Oh,
peanut butter filling, and they're dipped in chocolate.
shut up. That feels
It's
well, that
it's
feels
the
like
best snack cake. It's by far the best snack cake.
that's like a Mexican snack cake when it's like half marzipan and like what like also jelly, but also chocolate and a Twinkie at
Yeah,
the same time.
there's a lot going on those what are they, Pepitos or no, what are they called?
Yeah, yeah. It's they got that duck, that unhinged
Yeah.
duck.
Oh, it's an
It's just
orange.
like,
It's a bright orange wrapper. It looks like a crayon. And it's just
yeah.
like, you're gonna get diabetes. All right. Shout out to Cronenberger Meisterburger, 3 Jacob Trembleys in a trench coat sneaking into an R-rated movie. Parker Aylesworth.
Oh, okay.
Parker Aylesworth. Christy Salinas. Hi, your friendly neighborhood mortician here to encourage you to get life insurance. That is a personal story coming from
That's correct, actually. I have a friend who's a mortician and she would say the same thing.
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
going to. I need to be a burden on the people in my life, or else what's the point?
I keep telling my grandma, get a will or spend it all because I will not fight with your unhinged son over your money.
Yeah. Jeff has colossal feet. Probably. He's a big fella. I do have pretty big feet.
What are we working with? Give me the size.
13 to 14, depending on the brand. Although I used to be a 15, so
Your feet are shrinking?
they did when I lost all that weight.
Oh, width shrink. Okay. I
Yeah.
have the
So
feet the size of knives.
It
So
was a 15 when I was about from around 15 to 19. I had a size 15 shoe. And then when I lost all that weight, my feet started shrinking and I started being able to fit into 13s, and it was a delight.
congrats.
I loved it. Shout out to Verbose Minimalist, world's humblest man. Mind Freak 55 says the Varsity is just an okay fast food restaurant. What's your top tier fast food restaurant?
We've talked about this. We fight about this on, if you follow either of us on Twitter, we fight about this, I think, annually.
Oh, because you're an In-N-Out person, aren't you?
I am a California girl. So my dad was, I'm going to give you the backup. My dad was a butcher. He came out of El Sereno, Boyle Heights, that East LA. And when we would come to LA, we would travel because I was raised in Northern California. This is before they had In-N-Outs in Vegas, let me tell you. So the first meal I ever had in Los Angeles was I was 8 years old. It was a double animal style, fries well done animal style, and a Neapolitan milkshake. And I was a child. And my dad said with confidence, she can eat it. And I crushed that. It was delicious.
Wow.
And that was my first meal in LA. I lived for some In-N-Out. I know that we have complicated feelings about it
You
because
can have your childhood memory for it, and that's
yeah.
but it's
And then he would
overrated.
My LA experience was my dad going from taco place to burger stand and telling me the history of each one of those. So like Tommy Burger, Tommy is like a temple for my family. It's like
nice.
So it's one of those things where it's like it's a sense memory, but I genuinely enjoy In-N-Out. It's sort of like this. There's a taco stand in Culver City called Tito's. Here's the thing about
tacos is great. It's not well, okay. It's great in that it's American tacos done well.
Exactly. It's a great it's a great but I wouldn't even say American tacos because Mexican people make tacos like that too. So it's like
it's a Tex-Mex taco. It's not it's Tex-Mex style because it's a fried corn tortilla with that not so sharp cheddar cheese.
Yeah, and a little shreddy meat and
like government cheese.
Shredded.
Yeah. No, that's good, but
that's our version of a Philly cheesesteak, basically.
That's old El Paso style tacos, is what.
Yeah,
it's Tex-Mex.
Yeah, and like it's a sort of saying too, like in California, I yell about people say California doesn't have barbecue. We have grillin', we have Santa Maria style barbecue, and it should come with pace picante salsa.
We also have Korean barbecue here. Like we also have that, which I'm sorry, but like if you're trying to get me to get some like random form of barbecue out here and put it up against what Korean barbecue offers, it's tough to be like, yeah, man, your dry rub sure was better.
Yeah, exactly.
Than this, lemon pepper beef or whatever that I just cooked on the grill.
But hands down, if I'm doing my day job and somebody asks me to go, like what fast food restaurant like is going to In-N-Out worth it, I not only tell them that, I also tell them to buy the t-shirt because it's the best souvenir you'll get in Los Angeles. And then
that is weird.
They always love it, and I usually order for them because I was raised
tell them to
right.
Get a double. I go animal style with fries well done, animal style and a Neapolitan milkshake, and you're just like, you should all get the meal I got when I was 8.
Exactly. You should get literally every flavor you've ever wanted in your life in your face all at once. And so because it's the novelty of ordering it off menu too. So I would say that's my experience. I know that your favorite fast food restaurant is Burger King, correct?
It's my preferred form of flavored burger. Yeah. Their flavors are better.
I can taste the fake smoke off the burger.
Here's what I will say. I do not think that they use better ingredients at Burger King than In-N-Out. What I will tell you is that I think the flavor profile is better.
See, that fake smoke, I can't do it.
In the same vein, a taco truck on the side of the road, I think has better ingredients than Taco Bell. But
yes,
there's nothing at a taco truck on the side of the road that can compare to a cheesy gordita crunch with fire sauce. And that's the thing to admit. But I know that there's something about this sawdust meat taco that I'm eating where they've managed to optimize the flavor profile to a point where it's so hard to compare.
So my dad being a butcher, he knew exactly what Taco Bell meat was. Sawdust. And he explained it to me.
Yeah.
He was like, it's mostly wheat gluten and a lot of soy. It has just enough meat to sort of taste like meat. Yeah. And we would go to a movie every week and we would go to Taco Bell. And I remember the day I cleared in the 80s a $10 order. My dad was like, we're going to have to feed you before you go on dates. What's wrong with you? That's a lot of food. And I was like, I need an enchilada. I need a regular taco. I need a soft taco. I need and I had like an order in which I ate it, and I would sort of take all the drippings and put it back in the enchilada thing and eat it with a chip. And like, it was so good. And I miss Taco Bell every day of my life because I have a gluten allergy, and there's nothing I can eat there except for a Baja Blast and beans. That's it.
Mix them together. Then you give yourself 2 Baja Blasts.
Hey!
Shout out to Ass of Bass. Jen, be earnest. Enjoy what you love. Nicholas, you're doing great, Fabian. Shout out to Gotham City, OSHA, Grumblebee. I don't care for pie. Oh, God, it feels so get that off my chest. Do you have a favorite pie?
I didn't understand pie until I understood that crust shouldn't be disgusting. And then once I realized that if a well-done crust is delightful,
Yep.
And if you can do that, that's a badass pie. Favorite pie. Can I count? I prefer a cheesecake over all things.
That's fine.
Favorite pie. I like an apple. I like a strawberry. I like a banana cream. I like pie.
You do like pie, yeah.
I like a pie. You don't like pie. I'm sad for you.
I do like pie. I do. This is just what somebody wanted me to say. I like a nice warm blueberry pie with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. I
Oh
like
yeah.
Dutch apple pie. I like
Ooh.
various chocolate pies.
Yeah.
I've
A
gotten more to
pecan?
the fruit as I've gotten older. Pecan is fine. I'm not
How,
particularly into pecan, but if you give me a piece of pecan pie, I'm not gonna say no.
how do you feel about a pumpkin? I don't love a pumpkin.
I feel like it's a lie because it
Yeah.
doesn't, like, pumpkin pie is the only one where I'm like, no, this is a nutmeg pie. Like this is
Yeah.
nutmeg and cinnamon. The spices do most of the heavy lifting.
Yeah,
And
and the crust is the soggiest. That's the thing, is if you're a crust enthusiast,
that
the
all
pumpkin
depends
pie
on
lets you down.
that depends on who prepared it, if I'm being
True.
100% honest. Like that just means somebody made pie.
That's true.
Shout out to Jocular Haggard Cantankerous Fool, Vortispin, Just Boof It, a collection of organs
Just
aware of himself. Yeah. The Wandering Unpierced Left Nipple. Jeff hates
I
competitive fun. I feel like I said that one already.
feel like maybe there's two.
Did two people put that in? Because that's just going to save me money then. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jeff hates competitive fun is in there twice. So it looks like you cheating son of a bitch. Shout out to try to be the kind of person that would make Mr. Rogers proud. Where's Clawful? Carlos Castillo's unpopular opinion is Jeff doesn't even watch Batman.
Do you?
He got, of course I do, but he got my 4 podcasts in one round. Unpopular opinion. Jeff doesn't even like, you don't even like sports. Tom and Jeff watch Batman.
That's like a haiku.
Yeah.
I love that.
I ain't got time to bleed. Shout out to Instagram's at Mr. M. Tally. Follow Crippled Giraffe, all one word, on Instagram for fun drawings and designs.
Okay.
Shout out to Jeff using Deep Blue Sea memes to break bad news. Sorry.
Okay.
I do that.
That's correct.
If somebody dies at the end of the year, I definitely do a joke about a Deep Blue Sea meme about them. Shout out to Tyler Wilgus asking 7. In the time since he changed his name on this document, Jezbud had a kid, got a new job, and got COVID. Jezbud, bud, we gotta update you, bro. This kid's like 6 years old by now. Shout out to Kimball, the casual Frankenstein. Shout out to the Target Loss Prevention Officer currently hunting Jeff because I shoplift. I steal M&Ms from
I mean, they're terrible. We treat Target like a lending library in this house. I will return anything to Target.
I love this part too, where the next name is 20 years in retail has taught me loss prevention watches employees, not customers. So shout out to that assist there. Shout out to Steven. Shout out to, I'm having trouble reading this name because I'm illiterate.
Oh,
I can't think of anything funny because I'm not the damn comedian here, Jeff. Correct.
Oh, yeah, correct.
Shout out to Mike Gouts. Shout out to Lisa McCarty at Comics Book Girl, comics with an X, girl with a U. Shout out to Aeschylus and his tortoise. Dr. DNA. I get to beguile. Shout out to the scene in Meet Joe Black where Brad Pitt dies. Shout out to I'm never going to have a history podcast, you little so stop asking. Shout out to Mackenzie. Jeff made me feel like a douche for my Albert Camus reference, so now I'm going to make him say Eddie Haskell's obvious piss fetish. Chill.
Was it were they talking about The Stranger? What was it?
I don't even know. Nobody knows. We're past that already. Shout out to Instagram and Twitter's at Bob_of_skull. Shout out to While My Chocolate Starfish Gently Weeps, Lemming Malloy, Norm from Cheers, Burrito Mouth, Dan Hackroyd. You're awesome. Keep on keeping on. Nolan, Tubi's Dark Herald, says, watch a breed apart. Rutger Hauer's Eagle movie. A shout out to Itty Bitty Millie Committee Pity the Fool. And finally, Kelly says, eat the rich. They're hoarding all the blue check marks. All those people paid a very small amount of money to have me say their name on this. And you can too. Head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May and sign up for that producer tier. And I will do that.
I love that. Thank you for including me in that. That sounded amazing.
It's all part of it. It is all part of the process here. One of the things I noticed, did you know that you must know this. Yeah. Your website, when it's just a tab, it's just a lips.
Yeah.
It's that was you've got some interesting glamour shots on your headshots that you have on here, because first off, the banner on your website is you wearing a Mary, like a Medjugorje Mary
Yeah. Yeah.
shirt,
It's a sweat. Yeah, it's a sweater I was pawning off as a dress.
a Raiders jacket,
Yes.
and a what looks like a pair of piñata beaters.
Yeah, that's it.
So
Yeah.
were you just like, I'm a Mexican?
I think that's what was
Was
happening.
that what the goal was there?
We were doing a photo shoot for a now defunct Latinx podcast. Yeah, so we leaned into it. I love the photos. They were done by the LA legend Kim New Money. So I got to use those
Right, yeah.
photos as long as I can.
Was that for the Bruja podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. So
I
it
got some
was
lady almost sued Adam for that, you know.
I was the one who discovered it.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, I was like, "Ooh, I didn't know
Whoops.
about."
And the other one you have, and I think we're friends.
We're friends.
We are
You've been
friends.
on it. You've been on my other podcast.
You know me,
Yeah,
and you know that I am not a creep.
not a creep at all.
You have the weirdly sexiest photo of you in like a gi, like an
Yeah,
undone karate gi with a sai in your mouth,
yeah,
very suggestively.
yeah.
And
That was taken by John Michael Bond, comedian and photographer friend.
very, very talented. I saw that photo on your website and I started laughing because I was like, this is the weirdest picture. It's so funny and so
Thank you.
good. And again, pardon the phrase, it's a very sexy photo of you looking like an idiot.
The nerdiest photo.
Yeah,
It's peak nerd sexy. Yeah, it's peak nerd sexy for sure.
It looks like, was that in your dojo that it was taken?
No, that's actually at the house. John Michael Bond did a series of photos of people during the pandemic, like what they were doing. So it was meant to represent, like, during the pandemic, I leaned into like going to Zoom karate classes real hard because you could do katas, you could do like drills, you can do all kinds of stuff. And so I was going like 3 times a week. I was so ripped. It was awesome. And I was able to get back to martial arts in a way that like it it felt so fulfilling, and I got my 3rd degree and all the things, and I got COVID from karate class when we first came back. It was hot. Right now we're on so many people are getting COVID that I'm like, can we just like stay home for a couple weeks, guys? Yeah. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you're ridiculous. So
there's something, and I'm sure you've noticed this in the photo, but you know the reflection in the window in that photo. Is that your roommate? Is that Brandy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because we had taken some photos together, and she has like there's a photo where like she has like her machete that we found at the hoarder's house next door. Yeah. And then like there's pictures with her dog and stuff. But yeah, so like the photo series is kind of meant to like represent like what are these comedians doing to keep themselves sane in the pandemic, and mine was fight invisible ninjas. I don't think Brandy understood she was going to walk outside and see me practicing size, which I'm very bad at, by the way. I'm very bad at weapons. I'm like good with a bow staff. And then after that, I'm hitting I broke her ceiling fan with my nunchucks.
Of course you did. The pandemic for me was mostly just reading and running. I was doing a lot of running and a lot of reading, and I was going to the beach a lot. So it's really just like, because I was like kind of lost during the pandemic. And so I started doing stuff that I had always told myself like I wasn't good at. And so I started to be like, you know what? I hate running. I'm going to do it every day a lot because you. Yeah. I started running a lot. And that was, I lost like 30 pounds over the pandemic.
I miss running. I miss a runner's high. I love a runner's high.
Me now.
Yeah, exactly.
Runner's high though. I never got the runner's high. I always just would finish like a 6-mile run and be like, well, it's over now. You can go back to your life. That was weird.
There's an episode of the now canceled TV show Mom where every time Allison Janney encounters a feeling she doesn't like or a situation that feels awkward to her, she puts on her running shoes and runs away. And she does it in all 3 acts. It's a runner about running. It's amazing.
Can we talk about that show existing for way longer than I had any clue it existed. I didn't even know that was a show.
Also, it's a really good show. It's a Chuck Lorre show, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I think of Allison Janney as like a movie star by now. And then to be
Oh,
like, oh yeah, but she's actually making a fortune doing a mid-level sitcom that just exists in this thing. And then you're like, yeah, it has like 7 seasons or something like that. It's
yeah.
wild to me.
Yeah, it falls into that category of like primetime sitcoms. It's like Mom, the John Larroquette Show, and Cheers, where it's like a really like kind of great depiction of people in 12-step programs.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, because I was going to talk about that as well.
Yeah.
You had mentioned previously that you had worked in substance abuse counseling.
Yes. Yeah.
You yourself, the 12Q pod that you were doing, you
12Q
talked about
pod.
that, about your addiction. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on in the 12-step world for, gosh, I turned 20 this year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I used from 13 to 20, and then
So you started
I
when you were
just
13 years old.
yeah, did acid when I was 13. If you want to know why my brain's a little crazy and I have no concept of time on stage, you gotta
With
hit me
who?
with a brick. Other teens,
Okay, I was wondering if it was like older people or if it was younger.
but we got it from the older people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to have one weird guy who's like willing to give drugs to children. But like, yeah, and I don't regret my using. I think it got me through some of the most like difficult times of my life. My dad was dying at the time. My mom was like in and out of jails and institutions. I had a rough childhood. And so,
Jesus Christ, man.
and on top of that, just being like a butt, like I was also kind of a kid sometimes, and I understand why. And like,
Yeah.
So it took about 10 years of my recovery to like wrestle with the trauma. I spent a lot of time running from my feelings and my grief. And then I had a sponsor tell me to go to therapy or never call her again. And I started
Really?
going to therapy. And within 3 years, I was doing stand up, which I don't know is a success or a failure of that therapist. But what was happening during that time, too, is that I was dealing with all this trauma stuff, but I was also dating people that kept dying. And
What?
my
I'm sorry.
ex,
Like, really?
yeah, that's
How
like
many? How
the
many?
real joke. It's like the joke is a real thing that happened. I was with my ex. He had a stroke when we were having sex. He did not die, but he definitely has like brain damage. Uh, shout out. He lives in Sweden now. He's doing great. He's got a wife and a kid and he's fine. And like, I'm sure he's recovered from a lot of that,
Like, his brain
internal
okay?
CTA. He had something called arterial vascular malformation, which is like a knot of veins and arteries. And when we were having sex, it ruptured. So,
He almost came to death.
yeah, exactly. I like that that good. Like you gonna die. I was like I dating this guy and we were having sex and he was like, Jesus Christ, my ears are ringing. And my first words were, I know that that good. However, is there pain and vision loss? Because we have to go to the ER right now. And he was like,
You're like,
what?
that he also cares about your well-being.
It also cares about your well-being and has taken a man out before. So there's that. And then I went on a date. I went on a blind date. And 2 days after that date, the guy died. He worked on the show Cops Got Shot. And then
Was he a cop?
nope, he was a sound guy. And and then I went, yeah, I know. And then I went on a date with another friend of mine from the program. And a month after that, he died. So I got to a point where I was in therapy, and humor is the way that I learn. Jokes are what got me through my childhood. Yeah. Humor, my mom,
and drugs,
jokes and drugs. Thanks,
yeah.
Thanks, Mom. My mom loves stand up, by the way.
Drugs?
Yes. And she also and she would buy like if you open the car like CD case, it was mostly stand up and like a Bonnie Raitt album and like the Eagles. Like that was her vibe. Is like George Carlin, Bonnie Raitt, Jeff Foxworthy, like it was a very weird mix. And so I was in a therapy session and one of the therapists at this clinic was like, I don't know what you two are doing in therapy, but it doesn't sound like therapy because you two are laughing. And my therapist let me use humor to express myself because it got to a point where it was just like these people I'm just trying to make I'm just dancing.
So okay, so you're 20 years sober,
Yeah.
which is an incredible feat, but
Yeah.
you also picked the worst career path for somebody who struggles with addiction or has struggled. I don't know if
Yeah.
20 years, I don't know if like that muscle has just turned off at this point in time,
No.
but like for those of you that are not aware, and for a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, comedians have got to be the most damaged group of people and the most substance abusey group of people per capita in any career I've ever seen.
Yeah, we got a real, to quote my sponsor, the last time I did the steps with her, we were doing what's called a fourth and fifth step, which is your inventory step. You talk about what you know, where your resentments are and what your part is. And she said, and I quote, I don't mean to diminish your part in any of this, but I do have to say, these comedians and the people who work in entertainment are some of the sickest motherfuckers I think you've ever encountered, and you worked in treatment.
Yeah. But
So
like
it's
so the question is that
why?
hard? Is it hard to do all these festivals when people are drinking and doing drugs and
It was at first. I especially festivals, because I'm out of my element. I'm traveling. I at the time was very anxious. I started having panic attacks on stage and had to get on the old Zolofts and then stopped having panic attacks on stage, which is
oh nice.
great. I did have almost one recently in Denver at a club, but I was pretty good. I was able to talk my way through it and ask for an emotional support dork. And just like, hey, if I have to run off stage to throw up, I need you to just be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't in a way that like my program friends, they're like, it's funny watching your stand up because you just talk like that.
Yeah.
That's just like who you are. You speak
Mhm.
in I had a comedian tell me I speak in punchlines. And I don't know. So on the one hand, the craft of stand up is a very strong calling to me. I don't think that there's really any other drug in the world that feels as good as killing. Like
It does feel
like
pretty good, yeah.
like just to and you're not even saying your jokes like the way that you've scripted it in your mind. You're so present, you're so interactive, everything, and it's just like everything
You're just on, yeah.
you're just on, and it feels so good. But I will say that the addiction for me is not about the substance. It's about the obsessive compulsive behaviors of using drugs.
Mhm.
And so you can apply that to anything that feels good. And in
Yeah.
my first 2 years, one of the reasons why I was just like grinding as hard as I was is I was treating it like the hustle of getting drugs.
Yeah.
I was going just like get the next hit, get the next hit, get the next hit. And it was kind of making me a dick. It was making me an ass because I wasn't prioritizing. I have to have a counterbalance. So it's like if you're working in entertainment or you're just like working in a really competitive field, I recommend like never forget that pro athletes open charities for a reason. Like have a moment where you go and you feed a homeless person or you maybe go learn pottery or go I know a lot of comedians that volunteer their time tutoring children out of like a bus in downtown and like on Skid Row. Like go do something outside of yourself to be of service to the people around you. So you're not just feeding that beast. But yeah, stand up, sex, food, anime, exercise, karate, weightlifting. I don't do anything a little bit. I do everything like it's a bag. And so I have to remember that like, yeah, it's a stand up was a choice and I love it. I don't regret it, but I think on paper it looks really insane. And
It
it
is.
is.
It is
It
insane.
is.
Yeah.
It was an insane thing to do. It was an insane thing to do. And it's too about teaching. Like
Yeah.
people will really want to get that tenure. And I imagine you're an excellent teacher.
I was
I imagine Mr. Jeff is the best teacher on campus.
Mr. May did okay. But you know, that wasn't where I needed to be.
God.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
gave
well,
my
and
whole 20s I gave the entirety of my 20s to teaching.
Right. And as much as I love having piss thrown at me and people reminding me that In-N-Out employees make more than I do, they loved that one. They were like, just so you know, I don't know why you take this so seriously. In-N-Out employees make more than you do. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. They need to pay people to babysit adults equitably. I agree.
Anna, we have to get moving soon, but I'm going to keep
you
here. I'm going to keep you here. We're going to wind down the regular episode, but we are going to have bonus content on the
I love it.
So we're going to do that. But before that, Anna, what should people be on the lookout for? What projects should we look into? What tell me how we can get more for you. We can get obviously at Anna V is funny on social media. Is that correct?
All the things. Yeah, I changed it to Anna V is funny. If it comes up, if you find me under Anna V is fun, those are old social media handles because I did not have the confidence to call myself funny at first. And then I was like, you know what? New pandemic, new you. You know what I mean? Just put it in there. So it's Anna V is funny on all social media. My website is annavalenzuela.com, and Jeff can confirm that I am doing my best to update it. And it's not great. But also,
you know what? Desktop and phone, it's different photos on the website.
I need help. I need somebody. If you know how to work Squarespace or work for Squarespace, help me. I will pay you something. I'm not rich. I'll pay you something. Maybe I'll make you something. I'm very good at cooking. And then yeah, you can find me on the road doing stuff. I've been yelling about this for like years, but this is year I got to put the album out. I am so tired of some of my jokes and never want to tell them again. And so I got to put them on an album. It's going to be tricky because I'm also getting a hysterectomy this year, which is going to put me on my back for about 12 weeks.
That's hysterical.
Hysterical histos. Maybe that's the new podcast. And you can also I have
Hysterectical. That's a pretty great name for
Hysterectical. That might be album number 2. It's like there's this whole arc of like everything that's happened. I've written jokes about it the entire time as my body has betrayed me from the up. There is also my old podcast, and I will be bringing it back as seasons. 12 questions. You can find it here on the Unpops Network. Listen as long as you can because I'm about
over on the Unpops Network.
Over on the Unpops Network. I'm gonna cull some episodes. So listen to the weird backlog where I try to talk to roast battle people about not being the worst sometimes. So if you want to get in there and listen to some real awkward combos, hop in. It gets on. And yeah, so check all that stuff out. And again, follow me. I'll put up clips. I'm trying, man. I'm also tired.
If you guys have a chance to see Anna Valenzuela live, you should. It's such a great experience, great energy, really funny. You're very, very talented.
Thank you.
Your new arc that you're going through in life right now, I think is fantastic. I'm very, very happy for you to see the success, and I'm glad that I got to spend some time with you, spend a little bit more after the show. But for those of you that are listening, maybe you're listening for the first time, thank you. I have lots of other shows. If you want to head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May. If you're already a member of the Patreon, thank you. I like you more than everyone else. And if you want to be one of those people I like more, head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May. You get early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content of this show. You also get access to the monthly Ugh Fine. We have a podcast with Kim Crawl.
I read that when you put it up on social media, and I was like, "Ugh, fine, we have a pod," and I haven't laughed that hard in a minute.
It's because she harassed me for like a very long time to do a podcast. So finally, I was like, "Oh, fine, we have a podcast. Let's just do it." So that's why it's named that. It's very, very funny. We get into fights all the time. You can also get access to Nerd with Dre Alvarez, which you can also get for free on the Jeff Has Cool Friends channel. But you know, you get it. You get access to it with I got lots of other stuff that's coming on there. We've been doing a lot more. I'm trying to build up the Patreon a little bit more. My YouTube is being built up more, which it's probably YouTube. Hey there, Jeffro, along with all my social media. I'm starting that. These episodes are starting to go up on YouTube, obviously not with that. And I want to shout out Dre Alvarez for helping me with my YouTube. This dude is saving my life. You can also hear Tom and Jeff watch Batman on the Gamefully Unemployed, and on the Unpopular Opinion Network. You can hear both Unpops and You Don't Even Like Sports, a sports podcast for people who don't like sports. If you want to see me live, second Friday of every month at Blast from the Past on beautiful Magnolia in Burbank, California, mint on card. Yeah.
Can I promote you a little bit?
If you want to, in the middle of my promotion, yeah, go for it.
Yes, here's the deal, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I hate to interrupt, but we were talking about this before the pod, and Jeff was like, please say that. No offense, but this is, you can edit that part out if you want it to sound more
No.
organic.
Leave it
But
in.
here's the deal. People ask me one of my day jobs, like Rivers Langley from the Goods from the Woods.
It's from the woods. Yeah.
He got me into doing tour guide work during my uterus troubles, which was great because it was like I could pick my schedule, all the things, right?
Yep.
And people ask me from all over the world, where should I go to see comedy? And a lot of times it's families of all ages. And so I can't immediately say like, oh, so-and-so's at this club this weekend, blah, blah, blah. But also I will like, if you want to have like the unique LA comedy experience, let me see if my friend Jeff is having his show at Mint on Card in Burbank, because it's all ages. You could totally go. They have raffles. It's super fun. You're going to see comedians that are at the clubs, and you're going to see them in an intimate and amazing environment with no cover and an amazing taco truck out front. Like and I'm like, it's easy to park. I really sell the experience.
Do you want to know what we did? Like why it is that way? Like what the plan was?
Well, no, what was it?
So when we started the plan, Lisa and I came up with the idea, and the theory behind it was, I said, we can get a lot of people coming here if we make a show that every comedian wants to do. And that was how we started it, because obviously comedians want stage time, but if you treat comedians well, then you get prestige. And so what we did is we create like a green room in the back. We make sure that it's a non-cover charge show that we pay comedians for. And we try to do like the goal was to treat comedians like gold, and then the result from that is positive experiences, and people seem to like that. So
it's the show that when I get to do it, my program friends come out to see because they don't want to go to a bar
because it's dry. There's no bar.
It's dry, and they have a great time. And I love that you're always like, there's this great taco truck, and then I eat so many beautiful snacks that Lisa's provided in the green room that I like forget to eat the taco truck, and like it's always the best. So if you are in the Burbank or the LA area, if you're traveling to LA and it happens to line up, or you're seeking to do like meet your favorite comedians and podcasters, get the out here and go to Mint on Card, because it's a great show and that I organically promote amongst my life, like in my life. So I would take my family to that show.
If you're a patron, that's this week, the 10th. If you are not a patron, it was last week, the 10th. But the next show, next month's will be March 10th as well. And we've got a great lineup on that one, including Todd Brown, coming back out of his self-imposed out of stand-up retirement.
Can we talk about his set last night for a second?
He crushed after 3 years of not performing.
And that bit, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but he's got his new material is it's so crazy because he's so subversive. But I was like, I could see that bit on late night. And he said, yeah, because any late night booker is going to let me say Ronald Reagan. And I was like, okay, you're right. But like, but also like, he's such a good comedian. If he quits for another sustained period of time, I'm actually going to punt him into the sun. He can't do it.
We had people, Jason Jackson drove from Arizona to come to that show.
Jason.
And I was at dinner before that. Lisa and I had gone to dinner, and he was like, we were actually at the restaurant you were at. We were going to say something, but we didn't want to interrupt your meal. And I was like, oh, I'm incredibly vain. I would have absolutely loved if you had done that.
If you were at that show last night, one of the things I kicked myself for, and there were many things I kicked myself for, is I didn't bring my merch. So if you were at that show last night and you DM me,
the bands all brought merch and we didn't.
I know, we forgot. DM me and I will send you some stickers for coming out to the show and for supporting the Unpops fam, because that's incredible.
Buy stickers from Anna anyway. Find her, DM her. We're not famous enough to not look in our DMs. So that's fun.
It's true. We will see.
But yeah, so you can do that. And then also, if you are in the New England area, come see me Wednesday, Wednesday, March 22nd. No, we're in February 22nd, at Redemption Rock Brewery in Worcester, Massachusetts. That is as of right now, the only show I will be performing in New England at all this year. So that's a good one. I tried to keep the tickets pretty low. I think even after all the fees, they're under $20. And that is, it's local and I'm home. So come see me, come say hi. If you're a patron, come definitely say hi. I'll probably give you something extra for that. But yeah, so Wednesday the 22nd at Redemption Rock Brewery, and you can go to @Hey There Jeff Rowe on any social media for access to those tickets. I will see you all in 2 weeks. Anna, we're gonna say goodbye, and then we're gonna talk for a second.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Say bye.
Thanks for listening. I'm not a TERF. I'm not a racist, and I promise you, I'm not pro pedophile.
He's all those things. Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone. Our artwork is created by Justin T. Brown, who can be found at Artness by Justin Brown on Instagram, as well as artnessbyjustinbrown.com. That dope music you heard is by Troy Nababon, available at Troy Nababon on Instagram, as well as at troynababon.com. Nababon is spelled Nababan, and boy, does that shred. Thank you all so much for listening. See you next time.